right, hot tag. Last half hour of the show, we go from Atlanta to Lima, from Lima to Atlanta, and now from Atlanta to Seattle. And we catch up with our buddy Nico Moreno, and we get to find out what's going on. He's got the lid on. He's ready to rock and roll. Yeah, there he goes. Locked it down, and so you're ready to go. I have, first and foremost, a question for you involving Open Cup to start things off this week.
Yeah, I expect no less from you, John. Of course, always on the ball with everything. And I'm guessing you're talking about the Tacoma Defiance elimination against Timbers, right?
That is absolutely true because after the match, there was a post game scrum that we played the following morning from the head coach of the Defiance having a bit of a discussion about the refereeing and the end result of the match going away from Tacoma Defiance. When we were promoting this match and talking about the schedule with Defiance as a part of Cascadia and a half, or the second level of Cascadia against Portland, we said, look, it's Starfire. Anything happens at Starfire. Anything did happen at Starfire. Tacoma had a lead, lose the lead, lose the match. So what happened after the match that caused such a concern as you were there watching the match unfold in front of you?
Yeah, look, first of all, credit to Tacoma Defiance for putting on a real show. I mean, they were playing against a group of veteran MLS players on the other side. Kelsey alone, probably in salary, close to $500,000 compared to a whole bunch of kids that are making nowhere close to that. His salary might cover eight of the guys that were on the field that day. And he was limited. He was unable to do much. We saw Kelvin Kelsey move around all over the field at Starfire, trying to make something happen. He did not. So Yamada and Stu Hawkins did a fantastic job just limiting his service, followed him around, being physical. I thought that, a guy like Lassiter, Paredes, Yao Ortiz, who's a starter for the Timbers. Bravo was a starter for the Timbers. So this was a very good MLS side. And Tacoma not only went down in this one in the first half, but they were able to get back on this game. And the problem with everything that you said and the controversy is just how bad the refereeing was. And I hate to be that guy that goes into the refereeing, but look, the first goal for Tacoma by McGraw, there's a clear obstruction on Thomas that does not get called. Thomas on the record told us that there had already been a play where he was blocked, he was obstructed, or rubbed or whatever it is that they were trying to do when he came to set pieces, and the referee went up to him and said, "Hey, man, don't worry, I'm gonna take care of you." Is exactly what he told Thomas, and he obviously didn't because that goal happens. There's obviously a bad call there, and then he kind of went on from there. Tacoma, credit to them. Georgie Manungu had a fantastic game. He was the difference maker on the white side. Creates the two assists. The Rosario gets a goal. You gets a goal, and he feels like everything's back to business. Tacoma does not get a penalty called on their side as well. That would seem to be a clear foul, but Portland gets back on it. They get an equalizer, and then the game is ended by a tackle in the box that creates a PK, and Kelsey is the one that puts it away. Tacoma gets away with it, but Coach H after the game was very serious about having a history with this specific uh, referee and saying, "Look, we never get calls. I think it's a problem. I think it should be looked at." So, unfortunately, a game that should have been a win-win for Tacoma ended up being a tough pill to swallow because they deserved the game. They were close to beating Portland, and after the game, man, that all the fans tried. You've seen Starfire, the proximity from where the fans are to where the referees and the players are at is very close. And as they're trying to walk out the refereeing group, there were people that were very upset. One guy kind of tries to make the referee flinch. I mean, it was really, really a bad situation there to close the game.
Now, now that we go from there to looking at the Open Cup in general, go from the round of 32 down to the round of 16, and you only had the one cup set. We played that one to start the show off, and it was last night where Pittsburgh scores in the night at 90 plus 5 against 10 man NYC. Uh, I would imagine that if you are one of the muckety muck and the hires up at Open Cup, you're sitting there going, man, would have liked for a lot more to happen with the lower divisions. You had AV Alta lose to FC Dallas. You had the Tacoma incident and the Tacoma losing to Portland. But right now, the round of 16 and in, it is all Major League Soccer this time around. Probably not what Open Cup folks would have wished for.
I mean, when you got teams like Chicago that put up a full lineup, and they just dominate the games because I guess I understand Greg. He has had a couple of awful results. He needed something to kind of kind of hang his hat on, and he, puts 4-0 on Detroit City FC. San Jose, despite the red card, they're able to hold on against Sacramento. Dallas is another team that has had, bad results, a bad start to their season. So, they had a um, pretty close to their starting lineup. I get that there were guys that they rotated, but anytime that you have Lucho Acosta on the field against Alta FC, it just tells you a little bit about how MLS teams kind of dealt with this round of 32. But it is unfortunate. You like to see the Cinderella stories. I think that that's the charm about the U.S. Open Cup is when you do get those teams that get through the big boys and make something happen. And
Last,
Tacoma could have been that,
yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah,
but they were robbed from that opportunity.
Yep. So last week in Major League Soccer, how did you feel Seattle navigated without Jordan Morris putting 4 on the board at Lumen, taking care of all caps? Looked like everything was okay, but that's just on the surface. What did you think?
No, I thought they did fantastic, man. Look, it's insane for me to sit here and tell you that Danny Misovsky scored his fourth consecutive goal of the season, four consecutive in games. If he scores against Houston this weekend, he would tie Obafemi Martins and Raul Diaz in 5 goals, in 5 matches. Raul Reyes was the last one to do it. He has the record in 6 consecutive games scoring for the Seattle Sounders. But if you were to tell me at the beginning of the season that that was going to be the case, I would have told you were crazy, and that I would bet you my house and my car that that would not be a thing. And he's just been on, man. We talked to Danny Misovsky. He, thinks that it's the fact that he's engaged that maybe has got him going in the right direction. He's really looked good overall. And against San Luis City, I think everything was working for Seattle. It wasn't just Danny putting that goal there later on, but it was a team that, for me, the entirety of the game, you knew that the goals were coming. They were getting to prime assist positions. They were creating opportunities. There's a lot of competition in Seattle right now, and it's showing. Alex Roldan, first game back after an injury, balled out. I mean, because he knows that Kalani Kosarienzi is right there biting at his heels. So he had a fantastic game, switching the point of attack, putting through balls, being very decisive when he went forward. Albert Rusnak, apparently he hit the highest mark of movement since he's been with the Seattle Sounders, and I think it has to do with Pereira and Pedro and all the competition. On the left side, I thought Paul Rothrock, he lacked a little bit of sharpness and finishing, but I thought that he was a nightmare against San Luis City, and he knows that he has to do well because Ryan Kent came in and was even better. 2 assists. The guy looked like he was playing with a whole bunch of kids, to be quite honest. Low dummy. As soon as he gets on the ball, lets the defender get through. The crowd stands up and claps. The assist for the last goal to Nuhu, which, by the way, second goal in his entire MLS history, uh, is just a quick little feint. It's a quick little stunt to get through the defender, then puts the ball back across the middle of the 18 for Nuhu to put it away. Top shelf for Nuhu. So the competition has really raised the level of play. And I think that is one way that we all knew. And I think I said it here last week. That's the way you were going to be able to manage the absence of a guy like Jordan Morris is the collective, the ability to just get goals from several places. And I think that's what Seattle did against San Luis City.
I was going to say, like, man, where is this new who, and what has he been doing with new who? That was one of the things that uh, you figure that we've almost started calling it the new who hat trick, where it's a yellow card, a heavy foul, and and some kind of goal action compared to a massive giveaway that creates an opportunity to the other side. So it's usually a goal contribution, a bad giveaway, and a horrendous foul. That's the Nuhu hat trick, and he goes offensive on you. What it's like? Who is this Nuhu, and what have you done with Nuhu?
Yeah, we talked to him this week, and he talked about some of the learning experiences he's had with Cameroon as national team. He's talked about working on his service into the box. If you look at this game against St. Louis, there's a couple of moments where, like you said, all knew who might just rip it down. He gets to the end line, and he might just rip it and see where that ball goes. No, in this one, he kind of lifts his head, knows where Danny Masowski is. He chips the ball. I mean, he did not just. I mean, he put a good ball in. That's an opportunity. There's another chance that he gets on top of the 18. Onuhu is ripping it, and it might be up there in the Hawk's nest, but he doesn't. He takes a quick glance, passes it through to Albert Rusnak, and creates an opportunity. So I think his decision making and his services in, man, they're starting to show that Nuhu could be at another level.
Oh, I don't want to know what that level is. LAG. We got to talk about LAG here.
Oh,
Yeah, basically. LAG and Montreal have the same record at 0-8-3 out of the blocks in the first 11. We are 1/3 of the way through the season, almost. Next match will do that. And they have not won. And you had injuries coming in that you knew were going to be dictating how you were going to have to figure out how to do things and who else was going to have to step up. And now you've got injuries coming out. I don't think we have an update yet on Gabriel Peck or Joseph Painsel coming out of the loss at Sporting that happened off an own goal. And Maya Yoshida face has taken over all of social media with the memes and gifs and such. This is bad. This is bad in LAG, and you could be missing folks for a while.
this is as bad as I've seen. Obviously, it's the worst start to any MLS champ in MLS history, and it feels like the injury credit card is maxed out, has been declined. That is no longer a valid excuse. This team has too much talent. I mean, you have Marcus Royce playing for you, for Christ. I mean, come on. I mean, what are we doing? Peck and Painsel, regardless of, they've had opportunities, they've had chances all season long. They're unable to make a difference. A guy like Fagundes, that was at times a heavy contributor, is done. I mean, there is talent in this team, and I'm just sitting here looking at Vanny and saying, "Man, what are you going to do?" Because I don't know, and it seems like no one knows what is truly wrong with this Galaxy. I mean, look, they play a Kansas City team that did not shoot on goal. It was literally the own goal. That was the only opportunity that they created, and that's the way you go out, man. I mean, it is absolutely insane. It is an anomaly. It's something that needs to be studied and dissected and put under a microscope to figure out what it is that's going on. I mean, did the Space Jams come and steal the talent from these players? I mean, what is going on, man? I mean, somewhere there's got to be something happening, but LA Galaxy look like they have no response. Uh, I just don't know what happens.
It's almost like you need to take LAG over to the Jet Propulsion Labs over in Pasadena and let NASA take a look at them and see if
Yeah.
and see. I think I like your theory about Space Jam taking over LAG. I think that is where we are right now with them. Obviously, everybody's sitting there, and you got some folks freaking out. Oh, you got to fire Greg Vanny, right? No, you don't, because considering what happened, you're the reigning MLS Cup champ. But I'm out of explanations as to what is going on. And then it's, kind of the same thing, in Atlanta with the black cloud hanging over you. Then you make a mistake, and you end up with this thought in your head about not wanting to make another mistake, and because you're playing too carefully, and because you're taking you're too tight, then you end up compounding the fact that you don't want to make a mistake by playing too tightly, and you make another mistake, and then you play too tightly, and then it's like, okay, you can't make a third mistake, but because you're playing too tightly and you had the first two mistakes, you get into your own head and you make that third mistake, and it's just like it seems to snowball. And in Atlanta, obviously, with the expectations that have happened with all of the expenditures in the offseason, trying to get everybody to integrate what Ronnie Dyla wants them to do, it seems like it's the same thing. But Atlanta has actually won matches where LAG has not. I mean, it's just wild to think about right now.
Yeah, I believe Shane Falco calls that quicksand, baby. Shane Falco told you that's quicksand, right? I mean,
Jimmy
and that's
McGinty
what's
is nothing. Jimmy McGinty is not a typical coach, Pat.
that is right, and that's what's happening. And maybe that's what you need. You need a Jimmy McGetty to come in and just kind of inspire this team. But you're right. I don't think firing Rick Benny would do anything other than just compound the problems. You got to try to figure out what it is that you're missing. Maybe take a page out of Caleb's book and look. During the Revolution were dead in the water. Now they have 4 consecutive wins, 4 consecutive clean sheets. He just switched the system. Something's not working. Let me figure it out. Maybe that's what LA has to do. Maybe we play in a deeper block. Maybe we simplify things. Maybe we need to move things to a 4-4-2 or whatever the case may be. You got to be able to figure out how you can affect the game and put your players in positions to succeed. You have the talent, Greg Vanny. And look, I believe in Greg. I think he's a fantastic guy. He's a brilliant strategist. I think he'll figure it out, but he needs to make a change now. And even if he has to tear it all down to rebuild it back up, but you cannot continue to have these sort of results.
San Jose put 4 on Portland, so we got good San Jose last week. Literally, San Jose is like, San Jose is like going to the store and trying to figure out what Toblerone you want. It's like, I don't know what San Jose team is going to show up. They're leading the league in offense, but they're 25th in defense. But I think that's pretty much what we anticipated with San Jose. And with Portland, once again, Portland, I don't know which Portland I'm going to get on a weekly basis. Am I going to get the one that's going to be lights out and blow somebody out? Or am I going to get this one that puts up a clunker against San Jose?
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. I thought Phil Neville was very honest and said, "Look, we lost this in the first 20 minutes because we went in thinking it was gonna be an easy game. We thought that we were the best team, and then we found out that we were not. And I think that's fair. Now, on the side of San Jose, Juwan Jones acquisition changed things for this team. I feel like now you free your most influential player, Christian Espinosa, no longer holding him hostage on the wingback position where he should not be. And now he had a fantastic game. He was my man of the match. Christian Arango looked fantastic. John Jones, obviously being the experienced, very good attacking fullback with this system as a wingback was great. And you saw him just have an immediate rapport with Christian Arango and just the way he was moving forward. Harks had a decent game. I feel like Bruce is starting to kind of figure out where the pieces go, and a lot like Caleb Porter, I think we might see this team start to solidify that defense. And part of it is DeJuan Jones just putting everybody in places where they should go. So this 4-1 win for San Jose to me was more says more about San Jose than it says about Portland. I think Portland had a crap game, and although I'm not going to excuse that they do have a very big issue, in my opinion, the biggest Achilles heel is midfield. Joao Ortiz, Ayala, no Diego Chara. I mean, you've seen Phil trying to figure out what works there, and nothing has worked. You don't have a guy that's going to control the pace of the ball, uh, give you a little bit of pace changing. That's going to be that general. That's going to kind of control the spaces. They're way too gappy. Ortiz doesn't really have the range that Diego Chara does. So the biggest issue for me is midfield for this Portland team, and the fact that they're fullbacks are attackers, and they have no defending. They leave so much space. Whether it's Bravo or Mosquera, take your pick. They're attackers, and they have a really bad instinct to come back and defend, and that just leaves too many options for the team to just get you.
All right, let's play cliffhanger and get into this weekend. Obviously, we're going to talk about Seattle at Houston. Seattle's a slight favorite, plus 159, and Dynamo Benny Ball's a plus 177. I know we're going to talk about Atlanta United at Chicago. Chicago's favored at a plus 112. But I do want to start with Minnesota and Messi and friends. Minnesota favored at a plus 124. Messi and friends are a plus 193. Your draws a plus 270. This one for me is interesting on a couple of different levels. Minnesota United and Eric Ramsey, the ball's got cooties. I don't want it. I don't care. It's all yours. You can have it, and you get to do all the work. You only had 1/3 of the possession last week, but you were the one that got the most goals on the board, taking Austin out back and tying their shoes together. This one for me is interesting on a bunch of different fronts. I want to see how this plays out, where a team that doesn't want the ball is going to give it to a team that has no problem with the ball. And you imagine that they're going to have all the star power at Allianz. This one for me is intriguing.
For me, it's intriguing as well. Look, Red Bulls is not as happy without the ball as they used to be, but they did kind of give the protagonism to Inter Miami, and they were able to put it together. Messi looks like a guy that whose pride is a little hurt, and he
Bad.
put those frustrations into New York Red Bulls. I thought that overall, this Miami team was able to figure out how to break down a good New York Red Bulls team. So can they do that against Minnesota? I don't know. I feel like Minnesota is a team that does that better. You just mentioned how they handled Austin. I feel like this team has a lot more speed in the front end. I feel like they can take advantage of when Messi and friends do kind of get too comfortable on the ball and get really high forward. So it's interesting. I feel like has every potential to be a 1-1 sort of draw. I don't think that Minnesota is going to give a lot of spaces for Messi to roam. They're not going to give a lot of spaces for Segura to be able to influence the game. So to me, I like what Ramsey's doing. I see where he's going. And because of the talent level and what Pereira has been able to do for this team in that creative end, I feel like this is going to be a game that will be a draw. 1-1 draw. That's what I see this game going through at.
Plus 270 on that. Philadelphia hosting Crew. Philadelphia is a plus 140. Crew on the road a plus 194. And your draws a plus 234.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know if I would put my juice boxes there just because it could go either way. Look, Columbus seems like the team that has figured it out, and they're coming from a couple of great games, including over this weekend, right? Rossi looks good. AZ looks good. You're talking about a team that Russell Rowe is starting to really figure out where he has to be. That this is basically his team moving forward with Rossi, and they're playing the part. But Philadelphia is very interesting, man. They start off very well. They play Cornell ball. They know how to pressure. Ura starting to kind of feel himself out. You saw Indiana Vasilev just be a difference maker in the last game. So to me, it can go either way. Columbus is a team that at times has looked like when they cannot put the ball in the back of the net, they struggle to figure out what plan B needs to be. And I think that Philadelphia could give them some issues. So for me, honestly, put a blanket over it. It's anyone's game. But if I had to go ahead and pick one, I think that Philadelphia might be able to get the best out of Columbus. Cornell and this team is inspired. Give me Philadelphia.
Okay.
Just as a gut feeling here.
All right. So Benny Ball and Seattle going at it this weekend. And with those juice boxes, it is plus 177 for Houston, 8:40 Eastern start. Draws a plus 222. Seattle a plus 159. What do you think about that one?
I'm taking Seattle in this one. And this is the reason why. Regardless of what we've seen out of Houston, I thought that the offensive issues were going to be fixed with Linger. And I thought that Ponce was going to have a guy that he was going to be able to associate himself pretty well with. McGlynn is a guy that's starting to figure things out for Houston. But defensively, they're having some big issues. Escobar gets a silly second yellow. He will not be available for this game. This team has been drawing at straws on defense, just doing all kinds of experiments with their center backs because they don't have them healthy, because they don't have them playing well. And when you have a Seattle team that has some momentum, this is what I think of Seattle. I have a 3-game road trip. I have a team that's kind of hurting at Houston that maybe we might be able to get them uh, thinking that we're going to go over there and just manage this game. But if we go full lineup, go nice and hot, try to control the tempo of this game, take it away, we might be able to guarantee ourselves a win in the very first game of this 3-game road trip. And that might be that's going to allow us to manage the other two. You got LAFC at LAFC, and then you got the Classico at Portland. So if you get this Houston win, I feel like you take a lot of pressure off your team. So for me, Seattle's going to lay it all out, put all the meat on the grill in this one, and I think that they'll get the win against Houston.
All right, and then obviously the last one on the board, Atlanta at Chicago kicks off the weekend, 240 start. Atlanta United on the road at plus 204, Chicago Fire a plus 112, your draws a plus 280. Chicago hasn't won in their last 5. Atlanta had the draw against Nashville. Obviously, everybody's sitting there and thinking that should have been 3 points instead of 1. What do you think about that one at Chicago?
It's a clear draw for me. I mean, just because of everything Atlanta has been doing, Chicago themselves are, if we take away that 7-2 crazy game, I feel like they're a team that can't control the pace of events.
Right.
You saw them get a little boost of confidence here in Open Cup, if you want to say that. Bamba played, Cyprus played. I mean, there was a team that was definitely out there to get some confidence. It's almost like that Alabama playing Appalachian State or something to start off the preseason just to get him some confidence. That's kind of what I saw out of Greg on this one. So for me, man, Atlanta again is just so difficult to see. That Nashville game, I had a lot of expectations, and I want to use the word that I've used for Seattle at the beginning of the season. Is just not good enough. Mm-hmm. Atlanta's just not good enough. There's too much talent. Should be finishing off games. Should be finishing off chances. Should be creating a lot more than they are, and they just are unable to. So for me, this is going to be a draw, no doubt about it. It's going to be interesting, but to me, it's going to be a draw.
All right, what's going on with Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart? Lay it on me.
Yes, sir. We're going to be recording here today because the team is going to train and travel today. So the usual Friday podcast, we'll probably lay it out on Friday either way, but we'll be recording today. So go ahead and wait on that. As usual, the Sounder of Heart Podcast Network. What we learned this week with Jeremiah, Shannon, and myself, that's going to be on Friday. We have a whole bunch of cool stuff on Pulso Sports, by the way. We have a 101 tactical talk with Freddie Juarez. We just talked to Craig Weibel yesterday, and we got some really cool inside stuff. You will not find the whole video anywhere else than on Pulso Sports. He talks about using that 10-day window from Club World Cup, bringing a transfer, talks about the U22, talks about Tacoma's elimination, what he saw. And one nugget here, Osasa de Rosario had a fantastic game, or a good game, against Tacoma Defiance. It wasn't just the goal, it was the movement, it was the opportunities. There is one cross that he heads perfectly on top of 2 MLS talented center backs in Superich and McGraw. The kid plays the part. To me, he will be signed. And it's not an if, it's a when. I expect that to be sometime this week before the Houston game. So I think that there will be a signing, giving this kid a full-time first-team contract. There's been some injuries there for Seattle. Ferreira has been modified at training, hasn't been fully on training. Musovski is a guy that might need a little bit of a break. So how do you deal with not having Jordan Morris and Ferreira potentially hurt or trying to get back into it? Osasa de Rosario. So I feel like that's going to be the new signing for the Sounders. So go ahead and check that out. All of it on Pulso Sports. And of course, on Monday, the Lobbing Scorchers kickoff with Ari Longwall. Monday, 8 a.m. to 9:15, 9:20-ish. That's all I got.
Yeah, well, so when we're off the air on Monday, they need to go and check out Lobbing Scorchers with everything that you guys do at Sounder at Heart. See, it's a full morning here on the East Coast. See, the full morning you start with us, then we go over to you on Mondays and Sounder at Heart, and then everything's laid out, and then folks go to lunch, and then they kind of catch up with everything else on the Monday, and then we start it all over again on Tuesday. As always, my friend, great to see you. And I saw that you were busting out your Wazoo mug again this morning. The consistency is there. I see how this works. Yep. The Wazoo mug and the coffee from the Palouse. Love you very much, my friend. We'll see you again next week. Be safe, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Take it easy, John. You the man, baby.